Good afternoon, one and all. I'm excited, super excited to host this session today, the special webinar under the iHub Government of Gujarat. We have amazing speakers lined up for this interaction, and today we have a very, very important topic: how startups and corporates co-create to create value. We have Mr. Srinivas and Umesh, the senior leadership from the innovation and R&D team from Tech Mahindra. And we also have Mr. M. Nagarajan, Commissioner of Higher Education, Government of Gujarat, and Honorary Executive Director of iHub Government of Gujarat. All of you have not only demonstrated that each of you are outstanding thought leaders, but simultaneously you are action heroes. And that is going to be visible very soon to all the audience who are listening to you through the Facebook channel of iHub and other digital platforms. So before we introduce the speaker and the context, may I request Nagarajan Sir, Commissioner of Higher Education, to share his initial remark.
Thank you. Thank you, Hirmay and iHub team for putting up a very special session, which is very close to my heart. Open innovation is something which I believe is the future. And I am glad to welcome Mr. Srinivas and Mr. Umesh from Tech Mahindra team who are here with us to share their ideas and their work and their vision for the future. It is very important that our startups and our innovators and mentors who are guiding them should understand what is happening at the cutting edge of society, where technology society are coming together. And we need an open innovation platforms where industry, academia, and the startups can collaborate and do something which is remarkable. What is good thing about open innovation is that the traditional corporates have the scale and the startups bring the agility and new ideas. How to marry both of them and to create a confluence of solutions and impact, that is what is this co-creation, corporate startup co-creation is going to happen. And I'm glad that we are having Tech Mahindra team here who are leading this, because Tech Mahindra is one of those organizations which have taken up this kind of innovation initiatives long before it came into the mainstream discourse, before we all were talking, before it even reached to general newspapers. They were there and doing those things. And I also remember Mahindra Group as some corporate group that is always having a very forward-looking vision with serving the society as its ultimate goal. That has always come out in Mr. Mahindra's speech, Anand Mahindra's speech in Vibrant Gujarat and various forums where I have had the opportunity to hear him and his vision and thought. He is not just a businessman, but a businessman with a vision to serve the society. That has always come out, and I congratulate you and your team, Mr. Srinivas, because you are completing 75 years, and it's a big occasion for you people. I also distinctly remember this Mahindra Rice campaign. 3-4 years ago it was. I think that was one of the first very visible campaign by a corporate to look at the impact side of society, not away from the CSR part of it. I think that was a truly new dimension that your group touched, and that is one more example that stands out to me as a very different initiative that makes your group apart. So I'm looking forward to the conversation today, and especially with your focus on emerging technologies on various sectors in healthcare and education and different services and other things. And the top two guys are there who are doing these things in the leading this, and we are happy, and we also look forward to find out some opportunities to collaborate with you, bring some of the ideas from our side to the table, and see if it can match in this collaborative sandbox, which I call it, and help our students to move from this idea to market. Mind to market journey is what we are doing, and we are trying to build the pipeline of innovation and startup so that they become risk capital ready in the real sense of what startup is going. So we are focused on increasing the funnel size and also bringing in more diversity, local solutions for local problems, which can support the Atmanirbhar Bharat. So we also always talk about, when we talk about startups and unicorns, we always stress that we should talk about impact unicorns. Can you touch 1 billion people with your idea? if it is there, that is more important for us than $1 billion valuation, which is always, if we are able to put it in our entrepreneurs mindset right from their initial days of entrepreneurship, I think that's going to transform the way the returns are going to accrue for the society. And thank you both of the guys for spending time with us. I look forward to a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for setting up the context. As I briefed to the audience who are new to this series, it was Nagarajan sir who set up the first tinkering lab, or so-called the miniature maker lab, in the office of district development office when he was the DDO, which is in Sabarkantha district, and the intention was people who are visiting his office as they can also get an idea how innovation happens. So it was very innovative that people come and wait in senior bureaucrat's office and scratch heads, but now they can scratch ideas, So that's the kind of innovative officer he is. And then he moved on to become the CEO of Smart City Surat. He also was the instrumental behind the idea of setting up India's first Smart City Innovation Center and Incubation Center, working on advanced technology and IoT, sensors, networks, and all these areas. So wherever he goes, he builds an institution and inspires institutions to create impact. Now, at this outset, I would like to introduce two of our amazing speakers, Srinivas ji and Umesh ji. Srinivas ji is presently the Head of Innovation Management at Tech Mahindra, and Umesh ji is Head of StartNet and Campus Connect program of Tech Mahindra. We have been lucky. The senior leadership of Tech Mahindra has been gracious enough to give us time. We had Mr. Nikhil talking to us, the Global Chief Innovation Officer, Global Head of Innovation, talking to us last month how deep technology innovation movement is going to happen and how startup ecosystem in Gujarat should plug in. And now we have two amazing people who will share their experience of how startups and corporates co-create. Srinivas ji has 20 years plus experience after engineering and MBA across strategic areas like innovation management, merger and acquisition, global alliance management, and similar areas. Currently responsible for setting up the Makers Lab, which is famously called as the TechM Innovation Center for Excellence, across the globe, and creating a culture of innovation across Tech Mahindra, creating an innovation ecosystem for startups, university, industry partners. He leads the ideation and entrepreneurship program of the organization, and certainly we will listen to him how entrepreneurship also get embedded into the corporate ecosystem and corporate culture, and none other than him could guide us really well. Umesh ji has over 25 years of experience in startups as well as IT majors in the spectrum of consulting and IT services globally, like Microsoft, Intel, CA, BT, and Tech Mahindra. He currently leads the StartNet program to work with startup ecosystem and represent Tech Mahindra in various innovation management related activities. He is currently mentoring startups developing innovative solutions. He is interacting with multiple venture capital funds, accelerators, government organizations, promoting startups. Being a co-founder of a couple of startups, his understanding about ground zero condition of startups helps him to guide them to be successful. So we have, as I told you one liner in the beginning, that they are not only thinking experts or thought leaders, they're also action heroes. And it is epitomized, it is reflected. All of three, Nagarajan sir, Umesh, and Srinivas, all of you have championed beautiful ideas and also taken them to ground. So now I would like to take few questions which we have put together to get the conversation going. To start with, I will request Srinivas ji. हम लोग थोड़ा सा interested हैं to understand what exactly the role of innovation head in Tech Mahindra that you play, and what are the kind of innovation activities that Tech Mahindra is engaged with?
Yeah, good afternoon, one and all. Thank you, Nagarajan, for a very impressive session or impressive speech on how what you've been doing in innovation and the future of Gujarat from an innovation perspective. iHub definitely we look up to iHub as an hub of activities that they are doing across Gujarat to promote innovation in the tech space. So coming back to Tech Mahindra and what I do at Tech Mahindra. So I handle innovation management or innovation governance across Tech Mahindra as an organization. So lot of us who talk about innovation generally say, oh, innovation is done by mavericks. They come up with new things. They have their own timelines. So can we actually tie them into a discipline? Can innovation be done through discipline and governance? Is a question that many of us ask. And I know that's a debate that me, Umesh, and others also have in the lab. Can we tie down people to a 9 to 5 job? Can we give 18 months time for a idea to POC? Is it right? But what has happened globally is that in the past 10, 15 years, the idea that we need to invest in innovation, that we need to innovate, has been harped down and even bought by most of the organizations. So people are innovating. But as what has happened in the last few years is the CEOs or the chief strategy officers are a little bothered on the investments they have done in innovation and the returns they have been trying to get. Or you could say they've been wrong in measuring, but they've been not very happy on it. So the question is the investment happening at the right place? Are we focusing on the right technologies? Are we focusing on the right areas that the company needs to look at, that the organization needs to look at, that the country needs to look at? Is the focus that everybody had. I think me and Umesh have been part of the innovation team since 2012, doing different roles. But after we saw this, we said Tech Mahindra is a very diverse organization. You have about 1,30,000 people working in Tech Mahindra. We do about $5 billion. We have a presence in 90 countries. There are 1,000 customers that we have. We do different services like IT, BPO, BSG services, design, multiple things. So how do we bring innovation across them? How do we measure innovation across them? Was the thought process that we went through. So we said the first thing that we all do is uh, in any company is how do we generate ideas? Okay, that's the first thing. So we said, okay, ideas is the first thing. After you generate ideas, what do you do? The next thing is that you actually evaluate the ideas to see which of the ideas meet some of the areas, some of the problem statement the customer is facing, some of the domains that we want to focus in future. And then once you identify that those ideas, shortlist those ideas, are you converting that into a POC? Showing it, demoing it to customer, taking their feedback, developing it into a solution, and then scaling. So this is one entire cycle that any company follows. Idea to market, mind to market was what Nagarajan sir used. It's a similar thing. That's the first thing. Second thing is, are we doing enough research? I think there's a lot of talk about India not spending a lot on research. Are we forgetting our own traditional roots of doing research on multiple things, whether Ayurveda, yoga, has always been result of some of the research that our people did in bygone eras. But are we doing that? That's the second point. Third point that we do when India compares with patent with China is I think our patents are somewhere around 12,000. China does patents in numbers in lakhs. These are the number of patents that India or China file in their own countries or in US. So why there's a difference? Are we developing enough IP? Okay. And the fourth part is, are we demonstrating thought leadership? Are we actually generating literature or white papers, genuine white papers, and contributing to research across the globe? So these are 5, 6 points that we thought we should look on. And the most important point that Nagarajan sir again talked about is that I'll come to it subsequently when we deal in other questions. Should we do open innovation or closed innovation? And if we as an organization have agreed that we should do open innovation, then is each of the unit understanding the importance of collaborating for innovation? So what I do is that we've created an internal platform called Iris where we do crowdsourcing of ideas, and the best ideas which are there are moved under an initiative called Entrepreneurship Program where we create startups within the organization and then we help grow the startups. Second point is that there's an innovation index that has been created to measure different units within the organization. So each of these units will typically have 5,000, 6,000 people. So is each of the unit innovating in those areas? Are they getting ideas? Are they translating ideas into solutions? Are they generating patents? So there's an innovation index on which each of this unit is measuring. So what we are trying to do is that by focusing on ideation, by focusing on open innovation, and by focusing on patents, products, and R&D literature, We are trying to see, can we transform this organization into an innovation-led organization in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? Can this change made impact across India as a whole? And if all the top 10 IT companies make the difference, will India be looked upon as an innovation-led sector, innovation-led country in the field of IT? So those are some of the thoughts when we did this innovation. And innovation index is a measure for doing that. That's my role in TechM.
Wonderful. It's quite a much, but this is very strategic also. As you rightly mentioned, that every penny that the industry and the corporate is putting, if it is going to the right dot, it will create a lot of impact. And I think the strategy and innovation plays a very vital role. And it is very heartening to see that you are measuring the innovation capabilities and indexing them within organization groups. This is very important because I quote a very famous quote of former the Reserve Bank governor. He says that a change unmonitored is a change undesired. And this is important. So even we are doing that same thing in Government of Gujarat. Nagarjun sir is leading a project in which the innovation abilities of every single university in Gujarat, 80 universities we have, 80, is being measured in different parameters, both in terms of input, process, and output. So that's quite interesting. Umeshji, one question to start with to you. Both Nagarjun sir, myself, and the team, leadership at the Government of Gujarat believe that we can create huge value at the intersection of startups and industry, because startups are agile and lean organizations who can fast track innovation, whereas industry has a larger bandwidth to quickly deploy and create value. And if you can create interface between these two, it becomes a very good glue to connect these things. What is your experience? You have been working with good companies across the globe. You have built companies and now involved with startups ecosystem stakeholder. How is the scenario globally about startups co-creating with corporations? How it looks in India and what is the way forward?
So I think it's a good question to begin with. There is this discussion, and I would like to focus on the opportunities that startup ecosystem has created, for big companies. So I'll say it's a reverse way. I mean, it's a both. The collaboration has to happen from both the sides, right? So the corporations, big corporations across world, not only in India, not only in US, but anywhere. You look at that, they actually go for some kind of niche work that they want to do, but they don't have time, to execute it, or they don't have the resources or the capabilities, or I can say expertise, to execute it. So they always, earlier they used to go to some vendor. In last 15, 20 years, what has happened that earlier these companies used to be, these other vendors used to be the big another big enterprise. But what has happened in last 15, 20 years, since the era of this internet, I'll say around somewhere around 95 or earlier than that, a lot of startup company has started working with these big corporations, and the main aim of these companies or the startup companies is to work on some niche technology, take one problem, and then try to resolve that problem using the niche technology. Uh, the companies who were opting for their solution, they were also facing the similar issue that because the technology was a niche and they don't want to invest into that, so they were opting for the startup. So it's a win-win situation for both the startups as well as for the corporations. Over the period, what has happened that rather than sticking to a single corporation, startups started working on a product, and this has changed a lot. Um, I remember that during this dot-com bust, I was in the US, and there are so many startup companies which were operating earlier, but around 2000, 2001, everybody started closing down, their shutters. The situation again changed in 2005, 6, I'll say, when the existing unicorn startups, or the billionaire or trillionaires of the existing world, like Facebook, Google, they started emerging, and they started emerging because there was a change in the technology. There is a change in the mobility. There is a change in the information that is getting passed across the different entities of the ecosystem. So that has changed a lot. Now startup has becoming more and more hungry, to work on the new technologies, prove themselves, and take the solutions to various corporations. And corporations were making use of it, to for their various purposes, like whether they want to reduce the opex, whether they want to increase the revenue, whether they want to look for something differently at the different business model, or they want to increase the customer experience or customer satisfaction. So they started making use of these startups. uh, During the period, the companies within India also realized that there is a huge gap between the supply and chain, or the supply and demand of the startup solutions. So somewhere around 2008 onwards, there is a the momentum has picked up. Uh, First of all, it actually started with Bangalore. Bangalore being the most having the most of the technology offices over there. They started over there, and then it spread across the country. So initially, it was only between for the benefit of technology companies. But after that, the various startups has started looking into the benefit of the end user also, like the customers like us. Okay. So if you look at the Ola, that is one of the example that even the Uber was doing good business, and we never thought that something of that sort will come up in India. But Ola has started that one initially from Bangalore, but now it is spread across country. And how easy they have done calling the taxi at your doorstep, or the startup like um, you know um, uh, the Datamatica, which is actually Pune-based startup. They had a lot of the analytical solutions. Data analytics is a huge and nowadays data is oil. So analyzing that data and coming up with results is something that all these companies are looking at. And this is what the companies like Datamatica, or the startup like Datamatica, has picked up, and they provided their solutions to the corporates. Now corporates uh, have to have some kind of the strategic organization within themselves, and they started working on the different programs. So TCS started with the program called as Point, and then Infosys also has Living Lab. So similarly, at Tech Mahindra, we have a program called StartNet. So the usefulness of these programs is these collaborations got some structured. It became more and more strategic. It's not only remain the tactical, the solution kind of thing, and that is a big benefit that startup as well as corporate are gaining out of this collaboration.
Wonderful. I think it was a beautiful explanation from the global context how Indian companies are doing. And you aptly mentioned that right from starting from vendoring out to engaging with big enterprises, tiny startup companies is a new dimension of strategic co-creation. I will just come back to Srinivasji. We hear a lot about open innovation happening these days in industry. Even Gujarat government does a lot of efforts, particularly in academia, to promote engagements of stakeholders and drive innovation. Uh, do you also use this kind of pedagogies in taking and does some efforts?
Yeah. I think very apt question. Because if you look at the way industry has changed in the past 100, 150 years, where manufacturing was a key area for business, most of the R&D used to be closed innovation. So it closed, it was confined within the perimeters of the organization, and most of the R&D, most of the new products that they bought were patented, and then there was a royalty system of lending out the patent to a competitor or to a partner if required. That was one way of doing things when there were few companies in the world and they had their own monopoly. But if you see now, the number of organizations have improved, and we've also understood whether it is countries or companies, there is a need to collaborate. And I think just to define for those who don't have a full-fledged definition of what open and closed innovation means. So closed innovation is what an organization does within its own confines, and open innovation is where the organization counts its partners as part of its innovation strategy. So for me, when I do open innovation, for me, iHub is also an important partner. And the reason why I'm saying that is that tomorrow, if I am doing a customer meet, or if I meet a customer and he comes to me and says, Srini, I think there is some application of 5G on enterprise, and I think we can once I roll out 5G, my enterprise customers will benefit it. So the next thing I'll do is I'll come back and see, okay, do I have a solution internally built within Tech Mahindra for that? Is it something that I can take to the customer? Is it something that is in the reckoning within my R&D department? Or I would say that, okay, can I put this to my partners who are working with me, whether it is startup partners, whether it is the Atal Incubation Center with whom we are connected with, whether it's the multiple universities that we are connected with, or the startups, and see, okay, can I do a win-win situation by taking some of the good solutions or good ideas that a startup has got, actually work with them to refurbish that idea or clean that idea, refine that, develop that idea, and take it to the customer. So the other option is I sit internally and say कि बस मेरे पास तो नहीं है, let me create a team and develop. And innovation is something that has to be done at that moment. We cannot wait. We cannot spend time on it. So I think there's always a time value of innovation, and recognizing that, Tech Mahindra definitely understands that innovation through collaboration is a very important initiative within our organization. So if you look at the Makers Lab, I keep saying that the average age of people working in Makers Lab is 19 or 20. And then now I think the CEO sir will come back to me and say, you both yourself have 20 years of experience. ये तो नहीं हो सकता. But that is because for the 20 people of Makers Lab who operate within our Hinjewadi campus in Pune, there are about 64 interns who are working with us. And they are all second and third year engineering students, 18, 19, 20 years age. And the reason why they are working with us is that we have shared the idea with them, saying that this is an idea that we are trying to develop. There's an autonomous car that we are trying to develop for Indian conditions. It could be level 2, level 3. Are you willing to work on it? And we are willing to guide you, skill you, upskill you, and all. And then we've undertook that project, and we've also signed some legal agreement saying that, okay, well, IP might be shared, not shared, so that the two organizations have decided, so that there's nothing in hiding. So we've decided, okay, if this IP is done, it will go to this people, it will go to that people. So there's a framework also. It's not that it's something that's done in abstract manner, but and or a similar way. I think somebody was asking me in Sweden, a customer in Sweden asked us, can you give me a robot that can climb coconut trees and fell the coconuts? Okay. So then we went back to our Kerala startup mission with whom we are working, and we said probably Kerala is one area where we see a lot of coconut trees. Did any of your startups focus on that area? And they definitely had one. I think Umesh was the one who did that good job. And then we said, okay, can we refine that and see how it can be done in Sweden, or can we take it to our customer? Not take. So I think being open, as they say in life also, if you are open to suggestions, if you are open to ideas, that is the way you grow. And for Tech Mahindra and for the innovation at Tech Mahindra, we are open. We are willing to partner with our competitors also. So we have kept our lab open. Anybody from TCS, Infosys, Wipro can come to our lab and see what we are doing. There is no restriction. other than the restriction at the gate which the company asks you to do. Once you enter the company, moving into Makers Lab, there's no restriction at all. So I think we've kept that open because I think at Makers Lab, very well in advance, we understood the importance of collaborating. So I think, yeah.
So I was coming to Umesh. Umeshji, what is the modus operandi of Tech Mahindra engaging with startups? How do you engage them?
Well, this is the key question because this is my bread and butter, and I like to answer this question in detail. See, in Tech Mahindra, we work with the various startups and we engage them, at their different stages of, you know, uh, formation. So some companies are there which actually we picked up at the concept level. The concept was good, and we thought that if we develop this concept further, we can basically it will be the good good solution to have, which will address our customers' requirement, and it will also help the startup to grow further along with the tech Mahindra. So what we do is, we picked up, at the concept stage, at the when startup earns some anchor customer, or they get any Series A funding, or B. Okay, so we actually work with them. Sometimes it has happened that we have even invested into the startups over there. It's not just a collaboration, but it's an investment also from our side. We also acquired few startups as well as few partners, few established partners. Like if you know the Pininfarina or Bio or the businesses of HA. So some partners, not necessarily the startup, they were also picked up as a part of our merger and acquisition proposition, and they have given us a good return. Okay. So when we do some kind of investment into the startup or partner, we have some kind of a plan for them. Okay. And the way we work with a startup is, we have the framework called as a 4D. Okay. And it basically talks about discover, it talks about the define, it talks about the design, and then deploy. So in discover phase, we basically curate the startup based on certain prerequisites. As I mentioned, sometimes if we like the concept, we go for it, but maximum time we see that there is some anchor customer, or there is some kind of funding, Series A funding, which actually sought by the startup. The reason that reason for this is, this particular requisite is, we want to ensure that somebody apart from us also has validated this concept. Okay. When somebody is putting the money over there, they would have, we believe that they would have thought about why actually they want, what is the requirement, and why they want to put the money over there. But as I said, it's not necessary that we want to work with only those startups. We are taking up the concept level also. One example I can give, um, Srinivas, I think he will also cover it, briefly. But we are working with 10 startups, from Bangladesh. Okay, so uh, they actually, these are the startups who won hackathon in Bangladesh. We are helping them in building their solution, um, and at the same time, we are helping them technically, as well as we are also helping them in developing their CXO skills. So apart from technical hand-holding, we have given them the training in terms of negotiation skill, in terms of how you should do the business with remotely, uh, how you can sell your product, how you need to market it. So these kind of the CXO level skills training also, we are giving them. So that's about the discovery. Then in defined stage, what we do is we define the business requirement. Why do we need this particular startup? What is the business problem? How we can solve the problem of our customers? We actually shortlist based on this the business requirement. Then we design and orchestrate the solution that we want to develop along with the startup. So this phase is basically little elongated compared to the earlier two stages. In this particular stage, we want to um, the work with the startup technologically, understand their solution, and take the solution forward. In the next step, that is called the deploy stage. So in this deploy stage, we take the solution developed from this startup, and we what are the IP that TechMahindra has added. We take it to our customer. We show the POCs to our customer. If customer likes it, then we start the deployment of the solution. Maybe if it is a customized version, or if it is or if it is the out of the box solution. So out of the shelf solution. So that actually we deploy at the customer level. The engagement model that we have with various startup there are three different engagement model. One is we do the white labeling of the startup solution. Okay, many times what happens that because customer knows that he knows TechMahindra, and that's the model most of the companies follow when they take the startup solution to company, because their client knows that this is a big company, or this is a more reliable company, or this I have done some kind of business with this company. So they expect Tech Mahindra to provide the solution, and Tech Mahindra take this startup solution, white label it, and take it to the customer and say that this is a solution developed by Tech Mahindra. Okay. So this is a normal practice. Then there is another model in which we work as a if some startups, typically the startups who has received series 4 or series 5 kind of funding, they say that no, I want to establish my own branding. Okay, my own brand. So we say okay, no issue. We take their solution to again our customer, and we say that this is our partner. Okay, we will be adding or we will be doing the customization of this particular solution for you. The out of the shelf solution will be provided by our partner. We will take care of all the required support, all the L1 L2 kind of support that is required for this particular solution. L3 support, where you have to do some kind of the code level changes, will be done by our the startup partner. Okay. So that is second model. The third model is we respond to multiple RFPs, which actually we receive from our various customers. So Tech Mahindra has almost 6-7 thousand customer base. Out of that, in any given year, any given financial year, 1,000 customers are very active. When I say 1,000 customers are active, there is some kind of billing is happening, with those particular customers. Okay, and when we actually keep on receiving the RFPs from these customers, as well as we receive the RFPs from prospective customers. So we once we receive the RFP, when we analyze the problem statements, which actually are the part of the RFP, and we think that this is a niche solution where actually we can embed the partner solution. We invite those startups to become a part of our RFP response team. They join our design team. They develop the solution, and they also defend the solution as a part of the RFP defense. Once we win the that particular deal, then there is a back-to-back contract that happens between customer to Tech Mahindra to the startup, and startup also deliver the part which they have mentioned as a part of the RFP. So we have done similar exercises with multiple startups in future, and this is the model that is more famous, or more suitable for various startups?
So I have two things to um, supplement on this from you. One is that when you do a innovation with the customer and you are supporting the startup, so when any IP is created, what is your policy on managing that IP, and how do you give some part of it to the startup, or what are the options that you have?
Yeah. So certainly, I mean, this is a very good question, sir. IP is such a controversial thing that everybody wants, to have a pie of it, right? So normally, when we work with a startup, our clause is like that. What are the IP that they have developed earlier to the contract? That remains with them. What are the IP that Tech Mahindra has developed before the contract will remain with the Tech Mahindra. In case of joint IP, okay, normally we would like to take the rights of the IP. But if startups say that no, I have played a major role, in developing this IP, then we say that okay, uh, then let's have some kind of agreement where we'll get the right to refuse. Okay, first I'll just explain that this what is the right to refuse. So if the IP is IP can be sold to another customer, okay, and in that case the startup will come to Tech Mahindra first. I mean, they as a part of this contract, and they will ask customer, they will ask Tech Mahindra whether you want to buy this IP, okay, before I sell it to somebody else. Okay. So Tech Mahindra can take a decision depending on that situation over there. And if Tech Mahindra buys it, then the IP will become the Tech Mahindra IP. Or in some cases, we pay them upfront, saying that will you don't worry about the future progress, but we'll buy the IP right now itself, okay, from you. And that's how we do these contracts with various startups. There are in some cases we do joint IP also, okay, and when we do joint IP, we mention about how much effort or what is the share of the startup into this joint IP. Let's say that I what are the solution that I have developed. It is worth of 1 million, okay, and the startup contribution to it is 60%. So straight away, we can say that it's a 600K is your the share. No, because then while development, it might be the 1 million. That's what the cost of the overall IP or the worth of IP. But we also require to have the marketing and other expenses. So it is not so that ratio we decide from time to time depending on what deal that we are striking at.
So I think then it is a bit flexible approach that you are going
Absolutely.
on in a case to case basis also.
Absolutely, sir. We are very flexible in terms of the IP.
Okay. Yeah.
Wonderful. Sorry.
Yeah. What do you?
Just to highlight what Nagarjan sir put forward the question, because we are very strongly working on creating an IP ecosystem in the academia in Gujarat. We recently trained all government faculty members in entire universities in the Gujarat, 5,500 faculty members, right from basics of knowledge creation to knowledge management and IP commercialization.
Yep.
So that each of them know the value that the innovation framework offers, and if they engage with different partners like all of you, how to deal with it. So we are also trying to lay down the entire stack of the ecosystem, and I think slowly when we engage with Tech Mahindra in days to come, probably these interface will create more value for both the sides. Srinivasji, I can club two questions for you. One is, how do the student entrepreneurs who are coming out of the R&D labs of universities can benefit from industry collaboration? And if so, then how the startups and Tech Mahindra can actually create a synergy to take it forward?
Yeah, I think a very important question from the academia point of view. So, see, I think times have changed. I know the time when we were doing engineering, the most important thing was clearing that semester. So primarily we used to study in the last 20 days when we used to get what was called as preparation leave. And if I look now, and I recollect an incident 15 days back, there was a girl who shared her CV and said, I am interested in internships. So I interviewed that girl. So she said, sir, I'm in first year. I would like to come to Makers Lab in second year of engineering. Tell me what all courses should I train myself on. So that is the change that has happened in students. They have become more focused. We could have a difference of opinion on how good or bad they are, but I think nowadays the students are more focused. They know what they want to achieve. They understand where the technology is going, and they are interested in solving problems. So I recollect meeting the CEO of Hacker Earth immediately after he finished his BTech from IIT Roorkee or somewhere, IIT Kharagpur, and he got a job with Google, paying him some 20 lakhs. This was 6 years back, and he met me in Forum Mall in Bangalore. He had come by bus because he didn't want to waste the money. And he said, I've left the job in 3 months' time to start my own startup. And today, Hacker Earth is a leading startup in recruitment business. So I think there are two, three things that has happened is that Indians per se, because of the startups, whether it is in the valley or in Bangalore and other parts of the country, have realized the importance of creating new business opportunities. So whether it is colleges or whether it is students, both of them realize that engineering is not a degree to get placement. It definitely is for a lot of people. People do get placed, but it is for creating better citizens, for creating better entrepreneurs. And one point that Nagarajan sir alluded to is that impact entrepreneurship. A lot of people are trying to do that entrepreneurship. I think when we had this COVID thing, I think within 2 days we had those stands for sanitizers across India. So we have invented that, and Indians definitely understand the need to do frugal innovation. We also understand the limitation of resources that we have. We also understand the extent to which we have poverty and minimalistic GDP per capita. So I think uh, people have worked on that. I think there is a ninth standard student called Rohan Nair, whom we started mentoring. This person has got 4 startups in his name with a market capitalization of 1 million. Yet he doesn't have the authority to sign the check. His father always come with him because he's not a legal entity. He's just finished his 10th standard board exam. I think he's now in 11th in Bangalore. But he's created 4 startups in the education side, a kind of creating an ATM with a limited amount of money that can be given by parents to kids so that the card doesn't get wasted. There are multiple things. He's trying to create a library, online library kind of a thing and all. So this is about a 15-year-old kid, and I don't need to tell about all the uh, examples that White Hat Junior gives of 5 year and 6 year old learning Python. But okay, even if we cut the rhetoric, we understand that all IT parents are going on teaching their kids Python, whatever age he or she is. But what has happened is that we've all understood that doing job is one part of the game. I grew up with the aim that I should do a good job and take care of my parents and my dependents and all. That was the aim that we all had. There's nothing wrong about that. But as we move ahead, I think our kids now need to have a different vision of seeing can they build something for themselves and make a mark both in our country and across the globe. So I think that's the focus that has already started happening. So one example that I had is I was part of the panel for Smart India Hackathon for the Central India Circle, which happened out of GS Raisoni, Nagpur, where Prime Minister Modi himself actually did a session. So, and the number of ideas, the good ideas that were presented to us, really started me saying that second and third year students have really come up with such ideas. The third point which I had is the students of Bangladesh, whom Tech Mahindra actually sponsored and did the entire hackathon across Bangladesh. And we shortlisted 10 startups. And those 10 startups are working on different areas like waste management, like IoT, some other problem statement they have identified for their own country and all. So, what I have found out is that colleges today, uh, I know if you go 20 years back, WWW was invented in one of the colleges in US. If I'm not wrong, it was in Wharton. Or a lot of internet or LAN and all came out of Harvard and Stanford. Now we see that those movements in India. If I go to ICER, which is in Pune, where they do studies on brain mapping and all, or if I go to IIT Mumbai or to any college, each of these colleges have an entrepreneurship cell. So that focus is there. And you have students. I was at IIT Kanpur last November, and there were more students who wanted to do their own startups and opt for campus interview. So that's one part of the game. What we are doing at Tech Mahindra per se is that as part of our open innovation system, we are engaging with students. And I'll tell you, I was at Atal Incubation Center with whom we are tied up in Pune, and we went to discuss with ninth standard students of a semi-English, I think English, Gujarati, Marathi medium school. And I talked to them and I asked them, what are the features you see in the car of the future? And this was the same hackathon which I had done in Tech Mahindra 2 months back. And we found some of the, there was a dashboard that we created of the ideas that we got in Tech Mahindra, which had about 42 ideas. 3 of the ideas were told by the students from 9th standard in that Atal Tinkering Lab, Atal Incubation Center that I went. So, which indicates that the students today are aware of how fast technology is changing. So whether it is 9th, 10th standard students or Glendale Academy, where we are training 11th and 12th standard students on AI for a international IB curriculum school in Hyderabad, we understand the concept that marketers always use: catch them young. Jitna chota pakdoge, you will have, and as innovation center, we're quite open to ideas. There are always people who come and give you an idea that as a company we might reject, but as an R&D lab we wouldn't. So I think we are mentoring students at MIT. So just I think the last point here is that we are focusing on two key technologies called space technology, and the second one is the one on autonomous car. Both these we are working as joint research with MIT Pune. So I think what I want to tell here is that corporates are willing to work with students. The age, qualification, percentage doesn't matter as long as there's a good idea and a perseverance by the ideator to get it out. Definitely, corporates are willing to help, whether it is only money or it's only resources, only project management, only mentoring, or go to market. All the 5 stages from idea to market, somebody from the corporate will handle if there's a good idea.
Wonderful, sir. I think you fantastically explained how industry academia interface can be created, and beautifully Tech Mahindra has created examples of the each facets in the value chain. And I think these are useful use cases which our academia in Gujarat can take forward. We have 1.5 million students graduating in the state of Gujarat with 8 universities, 40 plus incubators, 120 odd different maker labs which have been funded by state and central government. I think this huge infrastructure, soft and hard, that we have can learn from the experiments that you have done and take it forward. Umeshji, you have been doing a lot of work in the group and in the lab on electric mobility, which is also India's goal, primary goal by 2030, electric charging systems, and many more. How does this industry look like, and do you think startups playing a role into it?
Yeah, certainly. I remember, a couple of years back or last year, our transport minister, Mr. Gadkari sir, has mentioned that by 2030, we want to stop all the petrol-based or the diesel-based vehicles. But then, how will you transport? Okay, so the idea, his idea is that we need to make use of the electric vehicles or some kind of renewable energy. Even the CNG is also good, for that matter. But compared to the petrol or diesel, which are which actually create a lot of pollution, his idea is to move to these alternative energy sources. So in case of electric mobility. So there is a lot of drive that is being driven by the government of India, and they have pushed a lot, in India. However, I'll just give the global perspective of this drive. So, apart from India, there are a number of countries uh, in West as well as in East also, who has this electric mobile strategy planned and executed successfully. You take an example of Denmark, Norway. Okay, so there you will not find, I mean, there you'll find that the kind of ratio of vehicles which are running on the these petroleum products compared to the electric vehicles, it's huge. I mean, there are so many electric vehicles, and they have done very good penetration of electric vehicle over there. You look at the China, okay. I know that it's not a good thing to mention China, but there is no harm in applauding their technology strength. So if you look at the China, they have replaced many of the public, the transport system on the electric vehicle. Similarly, in India, what we are trying to do, we are trying to push for the electric vehicle, and as a part of that, there are as a part of the smart city also, smart city initiative, government is setting up the charging facilities at various points. Okay. And government is also giving the subsidy to people who are buying these electric vehicles. Okay. For the startup, I'll say that there are a lot of opportunities in this one. Um, Currently, though we can see that not much penetration of the electric vehicles in the Indian market, but this is the time that if startups can invest into developing the chargers which can help develop this, I mean, charge these electric vehicles and sell it to maybe manufacturers, or they can set up their own charging stations, so that the cars or the three wheelers or even the two wheelers who are working or who are getting operated on these electric batteries, okay, they can be charged at these charging stations. Right now we can see that across all corners you'll find that there are petrol pumps. So petrol pumps have been directed, there is a directive from government of India to IOCL, BPCL, etc., all these big oil marketing companies, that they need to set up the charging infrastructure at their the respective petrol pumps. And this is not possible for them to do the micromanagement of individual petrol pumps. So if startups can take up that job, they can tie up with these petrol pump owners, and they can set it up, the charging station over there. So I see that it may not be economical immediately in this year or the next year, but down the line 5 years you'll see that it's going to be the big business. And at that time, getting the place to set up the charger would be very difficult. Apart from that, we also have envisage the necessity of having the mobile chargers. When I say mobile chargers, I mean to say that the chargers which can be mounted on any small truck or any other vehicle, the tempo kind of vehicle, which can be taken to a vehicle which actually has dried up its all batteries. So that market is also going to open up once vehicle electric vehicle penetration will increase in India. Another area of where the startup can gain more traction is uh, working on the batteries. So currently, the battery technology, we are largely dependent on the lithium-ion batteries. I mean, that too, they are just getting introduced into the Indian market. But if any startup, which actually works on the lithium ion or any other battery manufacturing, then they can get lot of traction in this market, and they can get good revenue out of it. Um, the major hindrance of the current electric vehicle penetration is the cost. Okay, and if you look at, I mean, yesterday only, there was one stall on my apartment's footpath, and the stall was about, that guy was giving the pamphlets about two-wheeler. When I asked him, the cost of that two-wheeler, he said that, some sir, it will come around $70,000. Some, not dollars, 70,000 rupees. I asked him, what the hell? I mean, why you are charging 70,000 rupees for a vehicle which doesn't have engine? He says, sir, half of the cost is for the batteries. So there is an option, that the startups can look at, that why can't they lease the batteries, to the vehicle owners, so they can have a tie-up with manufacturers. They can work with the manufacturers. They can provide these batteries to the owners at the same time when they are booking for these vehicles. So what will happen, that the vehicle as such will be very cost effective to the owner, and owner need to pay to the startup who is leasing the battery, basis on how much usage. It can be basis on usage, basis on the monthly rent or yearly rent or quarterly rent. So again, this is the different revenue model that the startups can look into. The last point I would say, that there is a need for there is a need for a software solution or IT solution, where you can get all these different charging stations on single map, and show the the closest charging station to me, if I want to to charge my vehicle. At the same time, if I'm going from, let's say, from Gujarat to Delhi, uh, how many chargers and at what locations, I can find, so that I can plan my trip accordingly. Because sometimes it happens that the chargers, I mean, when you start charging this vehicle, depending on the type of the chargers, you may finish it in half an hour, or you may, you have to stay back, for a couple of hours. So you can plan it accordingly. You can have the entire ecosystem, develop around this charger. One example I'll give, the last point of this particular question. We had worked with a bank in Canada, and their proposition was, I will set up the 3,000 charges, in what are the branches I have. Okay. And my the proposition there, the customers, when they will come to bank, they will spend more time in the bank. Then when they will spend more time in the bank, they will inquire about different products, and we will be able to sell the different products to them. So cost of acquiring the customers, or cost of retaining the customer, is quite less compared to what they would be putting it on the charging infrastructure.
So much. In fact, one of the exciting point that I see is the problem statement that you just elaborated. We have some portfolio startups and their student entrepreneurs working in these areas.
Okay.
Sooner we have this Mind to Market Innovation Challenge getting launched on 31st, we can create a virtual interaction of these innovators with all of your team, so that we can just see what are the kind of quality value proposition that each of them offer. And that's the beauty of this open innovation, which Srinivas just now mentioned about. We have the largest pool of innovators. We have funded, by the way, 3,500 teams at idea level. Out of 1,500 have built their proof of concept, and out of which around 300 of them are built their ventures by now. And average median age of these teams are 25-year-old. So these are exciting young people, and we are looking forward for this exciting collaboration, which we will launch very soon on 31st. In the positive time, I will squeeze a couple of questions and come straight to Srinivas ji. Sir, what you do in this Maker Lab. It's a very exciting project, seems to be the Maker Lab concept that you have developed. And we also heard about that you are looking for developing innovation in supporting like farmers, agri-tech in similar domains. Would you like to a little bit throw light in that domain?
Yeah, I think so. Makers Lab is Techem's R&D center, and like it happens in any company, when we asked for a space to do the Makers Lab, we were given a space towards the corner of the entire premises, which was a wet kitchen. So वहाँ पे so I think we transformed that place into a lab, and we started doing multiple things. So I think the first thing that we wanted to do was create a bike that stands by itself. So we worked on it for about 3 months, and we failed on it. And then we found out that Boston Dynamics had actually come out with a bike that stands by itself using sensors. But when you come to Maker's Lab, we have still hung that bike, which is a case of first successful failure that we've had. And I think that's the mantra that we have in Maker's Lab, is that don't fail to fail, or recognize failure. So as part of our journey, there have been many projects that we've tried to do and we've not scaled, or we've failed at some point of time, or we've aborted it at whatever stage. So among the 6 focus areas that we have, space tech, quantum, autonomous vehicle, edutech, health tech, and agri-tech are the 6 areas where we are focusing uh, as on date. And to focus a little more on agri-tech, so we try to look around some of the problems that were plaguing the farmers and the entire agri-tech industry. If you look at the statistics today, 58% of the population of India still depends on agriculture. Agriculture per se does about $265 billion of business. And the food processing that we do itself is fifth largest industry in India, the agri food processing. And if you look at the grocery market, food and grain market that we do, we are the seventh largest retail market in the world. But if I give you all the numbers, it should also mean that the people who are producing this should be happy and should be prosperous. But if you look at stark reality, it shows a different picture. There have been suicides across, the farm yields have been low, and the farmer has been plagued with multiple problems. So, and when we did a small due diligence of what the farmer is deceased about, we found out there are 5, 6 areas where he's stuck. One is that no access to credit, or the credit that happens is actually happens from loan sharks who charge them at a percent at 5% per month, or because of whatever distribution of land has happened, the land holdings have been small, so the farmer could not use technology to actually plow the entire area. The ill advice on the crops to be put, because he doesn't have any idea of the prediction of weather, or what crops to put, what is best to market, has been very bad in terms of logistics, because a lot of money is actually made by the middlemen rather than the farmers. So there were 5, 6 areas where we found out that the farmers actually got besieged, and we said, can we use technology and do something for the farmers? So that was the single line problem statement that we took, and we started working. Now, JNEC Aurangabad, where we have set up our own lab, and MIT are 2 colleges whose interns are working with us on agri-tech. Now, what we have done, the first thing we have done is that we come up with an application where the farmer can write his expenses, a kind of a balance sheet for himself in all the local languages possible. Because a lot of times the farmer doesn't know what income he's getting, what income he's expending. Since he's an entrepreneur, he gets some benefits of actually coming back when he's filing his returns of the amount of money he's invested and the amount of money he's generated. So we created an app called Darpan. Darpan means mirror of all the investments that he has done, of all the expenses he has done, and of all the money he's got, which will help him look at his numbers. Second thing that we have done is we've gone back to our basics, and we said, can we use Panchang to determine or predict weather? Today, IMD predicts weather at a certain percentage, but Panchang uses more number of uh, what you say factors for predicting a certain climate, and hence Panchang is more accurate than the IMD predictions. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to build our own Panchang, and we're trying to add soil characters, others, and see how do we predict rainfall for a particular area. What we're also doing is that we're trying to use AI to actually advise the customer as to what crop he should actually sow at what time of the year. To an extent, what we're also trying to do is we are trying to okay. What we're also trying to do is that there are pests which actually spoil the entire what you say the yield of the farmer. So we said, can we do something to study the pests and see how do we take care of, how do we handle the pests. And there also, if you look at traditional wisdom, the pests also give some indication of the weather. Can we study that? And the last point was that the wild animals, because of deforestation or afforestation, wild animals actually started coming into farm and destroying that. So can we create an AI based scarecrow which will actually take picture of the animal that's coming and then scare it with music, sound, whatever it's possible. So and then along with the government of India and government of Telangana, now we're creating an entire platform that will work along with startups and all to actually guide the farmers in multiple areas. So this is, we're also part of a government of India initiative which is being worked out with the World Economic Forum on agriculture. So what we've done in short is we've identified different problem statements within agriculture, and we're trying to see how AI, IoT, and other technologies can be used to help the farmers. It might not be a very big business per se, but that is the point that Nagarajan sir was saying about impact entrepreneurship.
Wonderful, Srinivas. I think all of you, I mean, in this conversation of an hour has been an entire beautiful journey. We learned a lot of challenges that you have. Also, we'll work very closely with your team down the line, figure out very fine-tuned problem statements. And as I told, we have whole gamut of departments, disciplines, incubators in the state. iHub is the creating agency for building the ecosystem, and together we will certainly take this movement forward. I must thank Nagasan sir for sharing his time. He might have missed his lunch to join us because this is an odd time, but then it was worth it to have him today to listen to him, his ideas. Thank you so much, Umesh ji, for sharing valuable ideas. And we will definitely come back to you very soon how the startups can co-create with you in the state of Gujarat. Srinivas ji, you have been fabulous. I must thank Nikhil for putting you together and connecting the amazing people in the group of Mahindra. And we are looking forward for the exciting launch of the Mind to Market Innovation Challenge on coming 31st of October at 4 p.m. All the listeners, viewers, entrepreneurs, startups, stay tuned. We'll again come back with the same agenda on the Mind to Market with Mahindra Group on 31st of October. Thank you, Umesh ji. Thank you, Srinivas sir.
Just a
Thank
point.
you, Hiranmaji.
I would like to thank both Hiranmai ji for getting this event done, Nagarajan sir for giving his vision, and Gujarat has been a land of entrepreneurs. I'm sure with the activities that Nagarajan sir and Hiranmai ji are doing, they will do a lot of great work in the field of IT, and they will take India to a new place, to a strategic place in the global market. I'm sure. Thanks.
In fact,
Thank
I
you,
just want
Srinivas
to
sir.
add, I want to add a couple of things over here. Currently, I am working with few students from Gujarat. Two of them are from Nirma University, and one from other colleges. So they are excellent, in AI. And I was really surprised to see that in the second year, or they just enter into the third year. How do they know so much of the artificial about artificial intelligence, the algorithms? When we interview them, we were zapped with the knowledge that they have, and we offered them the internship at Makers Lab, and they are working on solutions that we are trying to develop. So I'm sure that the efforts that Hiramanji and Nagaraj sir, you are putting in, definitely is going to bear you good fruits, and Gujarat will become the startup hub of all these different technologies. And one more thing that I want to, before I conclude, one more thing I want to say that when I was working on the IVCS project, our charger, the startup with whom we were working on, it was from Gujarat. So I'm sure that the latest technologies and the hard work and the born intelligence in market. I think Gujarat can lead India into this startup.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. Thank you, Nagarjuna sir. Thank you, Srinivas ji. Thank you, Umesh ji. In the course of time, I have two questions for you. Maybe we will again come for a second episode and just the video of meeting again. So this is just a comma and not full stop, but we will again come back. Thank you, sir.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye. I log off.